Chicago, you disappoint me. Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. I have to hurry this along because my computer's about to die. March 3rd, 2014 from Chicago, Illinois, Raw tonight. There's hype for the Shield versus Wyatt's rematch and also for our main event match, which is going to be Daniel Bryan versus Batista. The show starts, CM Punk's music plays. The crowd erupts, obviously, but after a long pause, Paul Heyman comes out instead. The crowd chanting CM Punk quite loud. And Heyman says he deserves louder than that, and so they chant again, even louder. Heyman sits down Indian style in the ring like Punk used to do. And he says it's time for his pipe bomb. And he tells the story of Punk, of, how the WWE never really wanted him, yada yada. More chanting for Punk. Oh yeah, this is actually where Heyman says it's going to be the pipe bomb. Punk's not here tonight. So once again, the spoiler strikes again. More chanting for Punk. Heyman blames the crowd and blames The Undertaker specifically because the whole downfall of Punk really started at Mania last year when he couldn't beat Undertaker. Heyman says he wants the streak to end, and he introduces Brock, who comes out. And there's another chant for Punk. And we also get a recap of last week, the contract signing between Brock and Undertaker. More chanting for Punk. Brock actually talks. Lists off a few of Undertaker's victims at WrestleMania and says he's going to conquer the streak. And then him and Heyman go to leave, and Mark Henry's music hits, and he comes out and goes after Brock. Brock turns it around, hits Mark with the steps, clears off the announce table, and then F5s Mark through the announce table. More chanting for Punk. And then they hype up another rematch between the Usos and the Middle-Aged Outlaws, but this time it's actually going to be for the tag titles. That's going to be next, and they cut to a commercial break. Coming back from the break, the Outlaws come out to hardly any reaction. Road Dogg goes to do his shtick, but then he says, "You know what, Chicago? You're not worthy of our catchphrase." And so they stop. The Usos come out. We get a recap of last week, the incredibly short match. And we get the rematch. And it turns out to be decent. There was another chant for Punk, and then another chant for Punk, and then a Let's Go Usos chant, a commercial break. One of the Usos, that we go through the Dragon Whip thing again, but this time when he goes to hit the kick, Road Dogg ducks, so the Uso follows through with the kick, spins around, and comes back and hits another kick, because Road Dogg ducked, but he nails it anyways. The Uso hits Whisper in the Wind, and then we do the I'm gonna dive over the ropes and take out Billy while I simultaneously tag in my partner. We do that again. The Fresh Uso comes in, super kicks Billy, actually. Road Dogg was out of the ring. He got taken out by the other Uso. Other Uso comes in, super kicks Billy, goes up, hits the splash, and they get the win. New tag team champions. Thank God, not that I really care about the Usos. Of course, there's a big pop from the crowd. They hype up Aaron Paul, which is the guy that they said last week was going to be the guest star, the star of the Need for Speed movie. They hype that up, and they even give a sneak peek of the Need for Speed movie. And after that's over, they cut backstage to show that the Bellas, Natalya, Alicia Fox, and Oksana are all watching that preview. And they all start talking about Aaron Paul, whatever the fuck, blah, and they cut to another commercial break. Coming back from the break, Big E is finishing his entrance, and Cesaro is already in the ring. We're going to get a rematch from last week. And let's see, basically all that there was to the match, Big E got sent to the outside where Swagger tried to hit him again, but still failed and got clobbered for his trouble. Cesaro does the swing on Big E back in the ring, and after he does, Swagger jumps in the ring and hits the Swagger Bomb on Big E, which of course constitutes a DQ. Match is over. More tension between the Real Americans. Big E jumps back in the ring, picks up Cesaro and hits the big ending on him, and then leaves really quick. After that, we get more hype for the main event, Bryan versus Batista. And then the Shield music hits, and out comes the three of them. Then we get another commercial break. Coming back from the commercial, the Wyatts come out. And while they're coming out, we get a recap from last week. The match between Roman and Bray, and the huge brawl that happened. Once again, as with at the pay-per-view, Royal Rumble that is, or no, it was Elimination Chamber. We get a "This is awesome" chant before the match even begins. And also before the match begins, Ambrose and Rollins dive out of the ring onto Harper and Rowan, and we get a big brawl to start off the match. They're brawling. Finally, the match starts, and it turns out to be decent. They repeat the spot where Rollins counters the super top rope German suplex. He tried to land on his feet, but couldn't quite do it, but he still countered out of it. He dives on top of Harper on one side of the ring, comes back in, dives on top of Rowan on the other side of the ring. And then Harper tries to suicide dive Rollins, but gets caught with a jumping up to the apron kick. Rollins gets dumped to the outside of the ring. Oh, he gets thrown off the top rope to the outside of the ring. Oh, what happened was, Bray was in, Ambrose came in to hit Bray, Bray threw Ambrose into the ropes, and that knocked Seth off. Afterwards, we get a commercial. Coming back, Ambrose locks in the figure 4 on Rowan. Thought that was kind of interesting. It gets broken up by Harper. Bray does his Uranagi slam on Ambrose. There's another chant for Punk. Then there was a chant for Roman Reigns. And then what happens is, Ambrose is the legal man. He's crawling towards the corner where Rollins is the only guy there. I don't know where Roman went. There was something earlier when Rollins was trying to go for a tag. But Ambrose went over to get Bray, and Roman went over to grab Ambrose, and he's like, calm down, calm down. And so those guys were nowhere to be found when Rollins went into the corner to tag them. So he kept getting beat up. But now, here, Ambrose is going in to make the tag, and Rollins is on the apron, and as Ambrose gets closer, Rollins jumps down off the apron and starts moving like he's going to leave. He gets about halfway up the ramp, and Roman comes over, and he's like, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing?" And Rollins is like, "I can't be the glue to hold this together anymore." And so Ambrose is about to get pinned in the ring. Roman comes running back to break up the pin. And Rollins just stands there on the ramp for the rest of the match. Ambrose holds one of the Wyatts, I don't remember who, I think it was Rowan, holds him, throwed it over the ropes, and signals Roman to go do his jumping up to the apron dropkick thing, which he does. I think that was on Harper, actually. And then Roman goes over and spears Rowan onto the announce table. They tumble over the fucking announce table, and they end up flopping over backwards, and Rowan lands on top of Roman, because that's how much he speared him. Harper does a suicide dive on Roman, which shoves Roman back over the announce table. Rollins is still on the ramp. Bray and Ambrose are legal. Bray hits the Sister Abigail on Ambrose and gets the win. And the crowd's dead. And so the Shield lost to the Wyatts again. Bray and his two flunkies do their stupid pose. And they do the cutaway gag again. Cutting backstage to Renee, who is interviewing Batista. Batista going on full heel, saying that the Yes movement is the dumbest thing he's ever heard of, and that Bryan, he's not a real superstar, he's too small, this and that. It's, incredible to him that this little guy has even become as big as he is, popularity-wise. And at the end of the interview, you can hear another CM Punk chant. We get another commercial break, and coming back from the break, they recap the tag team title change from earlier. And they say that the Outlaws have decided to cash in their rematch clause for tomorrow night, the live episode of Main Event, which will be on the network. And I don't know if it's going to be on its normal time and channel on TV, or if it's only going to be on the network. Who really cares? I can give you a little spoiler alert right now. If they're doing this rematch on Main Event, the Outlaws ain't winning the titles back. They're not going to do a title change on Main Event. Yeah, anyways. Coming back into the arena, Fandango and Summer are finishing their entrance, dancing in the ring, and then Emma's crappy music hits again, and her and Santino come out to hardly any reaction. And as they're coming out, we get a recap from last week, the match between Summer and Emma. Whatever. This is going to be a mixed tag team match. Fandango and Summer versus Santino and Emma. And did I even need to tell you that it was crap? Yeah. Starts off with another CM Punk chant, and a bunch of stalling stemming from Emma and Santino tagging each other back and forth. Apparently they've come up with this gimmick where they're like trying to high-five each other, but the referee is counting it as a tag, and so he's like, alright, tag, switch. And this other shit. Finally, Santino and Fandango start off, and whatever. There's a We Want Ziggler chant, and what ends up happening, Johnny goes for the leg drop. Santino gets out of the way, so Johnny just kind of jumps down and lands on his feet. The girls get tagged in. Emma does the tarantula on Summer, and then she's able to lock in the Emma lock, and she gets the win. So Santino and Emma win. Moving on, we get a recap from SmackDown of the thing between Christian and Sheamus, and they're going to be having a match next. And we cut to another commercial. Coming back, Christian comes out, and he gets down to the ring, and then his music is cut off, and out comes Sheamus. So I'm guessing they're trying to save as much time as possible, too. Sheamus comes out, we get the match, it was boring. Another CM Punk chant, and then again, and then another commercial break. Then Sheamus gets knocked off the top rope to the floor, and Christian goes for his frog splash, but Sheamus rolls out of the way. Sheamus goes to do his clubbing, but Christian fights it off, but then gets locked in it anyways. And then there's a "This is awful" chant from the crowd. Christian finally hits his frog splash, and then there's another CM Punk chant, and then Sheamus hits the white noise, and another "This is awful" chant. Sheamus hits the brogue kick from the apron. Sheamus is on the apron, Christian's in the ring. Christian's like kind of up against the ropes, with his head sticking over the ropes for some reason. Sheamus jumps up, hits the brogue kick on Christian. Christian falls backwards. Sheamus gets in the ring, covers Christian. 1, 2, 3, match is fucking over. Thank God. Crowd's dead. Moving on. They hype up that Cena, John Cena, is going to address the Wyatts again, which I'm pretty sure is what he was doing last week when he got injured by the Wyatts. And by the way, that's actually been found to be complete bullshit, because Cena wrestled at a house show a couple of days ago, and he was fine. So the leg thing is a complete work. We cut to another commercial break. Coming back, Renee is backstage again, this time with Sheamus, who starts to talk, but before he can really say anything, Christian comes up and starts beating the fucking shit out of him. He beats him down, he grabbed something, I think it was a light or something, and he starts whacking Sheamus with it. Security and referees have to come over and break it up. Whatever. Cutting back to the ring, the Bellas music is playing. They're in the ring, and so are Alicia Fox and Oksana. So we're going to get another lousy Divas match, which again was shit. There was another CM Punk chant, and then a "We Want Puppies" chant. I think it was Nikki Bella hits her shock treatment backbreaker that she's been doing lately. I don't know who she hit it on. I don't fucking care. She got the win with it, and the match was over. Moving on. Cutting backstage, we see Daniel Bryan getting ready to come out, and they say, up, here comes the main event match up next. And that's going to be next, and we cut to another commercial. Coming back, Bryan comes out to a big pop, and there's yes, yes, yes chants. But Bryan gets in the ring, and he gets a microphone, and he starts talking. And he starts talking about hijacking Raw, and he says that he's not leaving until either Batista comes out to fight, or until Triple H comes out to accept his challenge for WrestleMania. There was a CM Punk chant again, and Triple H comes out with Stephanie to no reaction. There's another CM Punk chant. Stephanie starts talking, but the crowd is booing her so hard I couldn't hardly hear what she was saying. Bryan starts talking again, says he wants Triple H at WrestleMania. Triple H says no and gets booed. They start chanting for Punk again, and then they start chanting asshole. Bryan talks some more. Stephanie talks some more and gets booed again. And while Stephanie's talking, she tries to take credit, not her specifically, but saying the WWE, we made Daniel Bryan. Well, it may be true that you made Daniel Bryan, but Bryan Danielson was kicking heads in on the indie circuit for a long goddamn time before he even came to the WWE. You're trying to take credit for his entire career. Fuck you, bitch. Bryan says, you know what, Stephanie, how about you put on Triple H's trunks, and Triple H can put on your skirt, and I'll have a match with you at WrestleMania, and Triple H can watch. Yada yada. Triple H starts talking, saying you don't measure up, and tells Bryan to get the hell out of his ring. And Bryan says, this ain't your ring, it's their ring. And he's talking about the crowd, the people. And Triple H says it again, get the hell out of our ring. And Bryan says, why don't you make me? And Stephanie calls for Kane. Kane comes out, and before he even gets in the ring, Bryan suicide dives out of the ring and tackles Kane, starts beating the shit out of him. Stephanie calls for security. There's another CM Punk chant. Security comes out and they separate Bryan and Kane, and they basically escort Bryan to the back. And then we get more hype for Bryan versus Batista, the main event, which isn't just yet. They also say that Cena is going to address the Wyatts, and we cut to a commercial. Coming back, we get a recap of Brock beating up Mark Henry from earlier, and then once again, we cut up to the panel, which they finally said was there's actually a pre-show for Raw now. Not only did they mention that, but there's going to be a post-show, a backstage post-show, which again is only on the network. But anyways, the panel this time, of course Matthew's hosting, Booker T, Jim Duggan, and Alex Riley. while these guys are talking, I start hearing Alberto Del Rio's music, but the camera is looking right at the stage. I'm not seeing his Titantron or his Minitron or anything. It still says Raw and everything. It's normal. But once they stop talking, it cuts back to the ring. Del Rio gets in the ring, and it looks over. Yeah, his shit's not playing, so he gets completely jobber entranced. And then all of a sudden, we start hearing this awesome car revving sound. And then finally, after a minute, this white Mustang, new model Shelby GT500 Mustang, pulls up beside the stage. And then Ziggler's music starts to play, and he pops out of the passenger side of the car, and the crowd blows up, and hey, look, who's that driving the car? It's Aaron Paul, the star of the Need for Speed movie. And wouldn't you know it, the Mustang is the same car he drives in the movie. Yada yada. Ziggler comes to the ring with Aaron Paul, and Paul goes over to commentary. And we get a match between Del Rio and Ziggler, which turns out to be okay. And I say okay because it was kind of short, and well, I'll just get to it. Ziggler hits his drop kick. Del Rio goes for the concussion kick, but Ziggler ducks it. And then he hits the big leaping DDT on Del Rio. Del Rio hits the concussion kick anyways, but then Aaron jumps up on the announce table and he's like, "Hey, Del Rio," trying to distract him, and it did distract him. Del Rio goes for the cross arm breaker, but Ziggler counters it, spinning around. I thought he was going to go for a neck breaker, but then he pops up behind Del Rio, jumps up, hits the zigzag on him. Crowd blows up, 1, 2, 3. Ziggler gets the win. Again, big pop. So Ziggler wins, and the reason why I said it was only okay is because Ziggler really shouldn't need the help of anybody to beat Del Rio. He's beat him before. So even though they had Ziggler win, it was still kind of hollow because he needed a distraction from somebody outside the ring to do it. Anyways, they hype up the next Hall of Fame inductee, which we will find out who that is next, and they cut to another commercial break. Coming back, they say it's time to find out who the next Hall of Fame inductee is, and then there's a, "Oh, yes!" And of course it's Paul Bearer. And, I'm not exactly mad or anything about this, because, he deserves it. Paul Bearer was a great manager. He really was. But they have the big video, of course, for him. After the video is done, we cut back to the ring. And there's Big E again. And Swagger is in the ring. And I'm like, didn't Big E wrestle earlier? Why is he being double booked? Yeah, so because of what happened earlier, Big E is facing Swagger this time. Before the match actually, as soon as the match starts, because the bell rings, and then all of a sudden, Cesaro jumps in the ring, clobbers Big E, DQ, and he hits the neutralizer on Big E. So, Swagger gets disqualified, Big E wins. More tension between the Real Americans. Swagger shoves Cesaro, he's like, "What the fuck you doing?" He shoves him again, and Cesaro trips him and goes to do the big swing, but Zeb's got a mic and he's like, "Hold on, don't you do that. Don't you do that." And he tells him not to. And he's like, "He's your brother, you can't do this. We're the Real Americans, we can't break up like this." And so Cesaro lets Swagger go and he scurries away and he kind of backs away. And then Zeb's telling him, he says, help him up. Help Jack up. And so, sure enough, Cesaro helps him up. And then Zeb tells him to hug it out. And they hug, and it's kind of rough. They're like kind of whacking each other on the back. But they hug, and then we do a We the People, and that's it. And then they say, up next, Cena's going to address the Wyatts. And they cut to a commercial break. Coming back, Cena's music hits, and he comes out to a big amount of boos, and he has a thing of tape around his leg just below his knee pad, and he kind of limps to the ring. And again, like I said, he wrestled at a house show and he was fine, so this is complete bullshit. Another CM Punk chant. Cena starts talking and he gets booed. He says he's not wrestling tonight because obviously he's hurt. Air quotes around hurt. But he says that he's not having a match tonight, and the crowd starts going, yes, 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 because thank God we don't have to watch this schmuck wrestle. Another CM Punk chant. And then Cena starts talking about, his history with Chicago and this very arena. And he even says that I even wrestled at Money in the Bank somebody here in this very arena. He specifically says somebody. He wouldn't say CM Punk. But yeah. And then he starts mentioning the change again. The change that's coming. The change that everybody wants. And again the crowd's, yes, yes, yes. And then Cena says the change must go through him. So again, why is this asshole still a face? Again, actively trying to prevent the change that the people want, the crowd wants, a lot of the superstars in the back want, and this asshole's trying to stop it at all costs. And then the Wyatts quick cut. And the lights go out. And the Wyatts are up there on the Titantron. And Bray's cutting a promo, talking. While he's talking, there's another CM Punk chant. But here's something funny. Bray compares Cena to a thoroughbred championship racehorse. He races and he wins, and he races and he wins, and the crowd loves him. But then he starts to slow down. And, yada yada yada. He basically says that he's going to put Cena down. Just like the old racehorse who just isn't that fast anymore. He's gonna put him down. Yada yada. Another quick cut, and we go backstage to Batista, who is coming out for the match. And he bumps into Randy, who wishes him good luck in the match with Bryan. The match is going to be up next, and we cut to another commercial break. Coming back from the break, I noticed there's a weird little stand platform, like a set of stairs. It looks very much like the stand that they have the medal winners stand on at the Olympics, but it only has like 2 tiers. Like it's 1 step and then up to a more flat, longer platform. But it looks kind of like that. And Lana comes out. And she introduces Alexander Rusev, who comes out, and he gets up on the little stepping stand thing, and he talks in his, I guess it's Russian or Belgian or whatever language it is. He gets no reaction, by the way. He talks, and then they finally stop and leave. And then we cut to a recap of Hulk Hogan from last week. Not actually from Raw, but it shows the stupid newspaper things. And then it shows Hogan being on some talk show from last week. No clue what the fuck it was. I don't give a shit. And they also say that Hogan has an announcement to make regarding WrestleMania 30, and that's going to happen next week on Raw. Anyways, Randy's music hits, and he comes out to no reaction. And he basically goes over to the commentary table and sits down. He's not on commentary, he's just sitting next to him. Batista's music hits, and he comes out to a mix between he's getting booed at times, and then the crowd just goes dead at times. So he's getting boos and nothing. Then Bryan comes out to another big pop, of course, and more yes, yes, yes chants. And then the match starts. Batista and Bryan, which, again, was a decent match. Because, again, it wasn't all that long, because it had already gone into overrun territory at this point. It was already past 11, I believe. Start of the match, there's another Boo-Tista chant, and then a chant for Daniel Bryan. Bryan starts working Batista's leg, there's another CM Punk chant, and then a You Can't Wrestle chant directed at Batista, of course. Then it cuts to a commercial again. Coming back, Bryan does his comeback combo, and the running between the corner drop kicks, hitting those. And Batista jumps out of the ring to avoid the third corner drop kick, but Bryan comes running, suicide dives him, throws Batista back in the ring. He goes up to the top rope, does the big top rope front diving missile drop kick, and he hits that. And then he gets Batista on his knees. He starts doing the repeated chest kicks. He's hitting it. Then he rears back and hits the big roundhouse too. And then, out comes Triple H, Stephanie, and Kane. And there's another CM Punk chant. Bryan gets taken out of the ring by Batista and thrown into the ring steps. And then Batista picks Bryan up and throws him into Randy. And just throws him, just completely wipes out Randy in his chair. There's a chant of overrated directed at Batista. Batista and Bryan are back in the ring, by the way. Randy jumps in the ring and hits Bryan. So the ref calls for the bell, DQ. I'm going to assume Bryan wins by DQ. There wasn't really an announcement. But Randy hits Bryan once, and then goes over and starts hitting Batista. And Randy's tussling with Batista, and Batista kind of throws Randy off and spins him around at the same time. Bryan is there, comes running, nails Randy with the big super knee and wipes him out. And then Kane goes to get in the ring, but Bryan nails him too and knocks him off the apron. And then Bryan goes to do the suicide dive outside on top of Kane, but Batista cuts him off with a spear. A really bad-looking spear. More CM Punk chants. And then what happens is Triple H gets in the ring. Bryan's still down from the spear. Triple H has a microphone. He grabs Bryan by the head, and he says, "I'm getting real sick of you and this stupid fantasy of yours." And Bryan reaches up, kicks Triple H in the side of the head, and knocks Triple H on his ass. Bryan gets up, but gets Batista bombed by Batista, of course. And Triple H is pissed. He pulls off his jacket and he takes his tie off. He picks Bryan up and hits the pedigree on him. More CM Punk chants. And Stephanie's in the ring and she's going, "Yes, yes," just mocking Bryan. And that's how the show goes off the air. No Punk. Bryan's getting shit on again by Triple H. And that's the end of the show. So overall, the show still fucking sucked. The crowd, even though they did try to, be good at telling them what was good and what wasn't good, during the opening segment, I probably should have mentioned this before, but when Heyman was in the ring talking about Punk, or maybe it was while Heyman was coming out to Punk's music, I saw a sign in the crowd that said, "CM Punk or we riot." There was no riot. The crowd, you guys really disappoint me. You were not nearly loud enough. And you really should have just left the arena as soon as Heyman told you that Punk wasn't there tonight. You should have left and asked for refunds. I keep saying this to you people. They are not going to change until we start taking money back from them. Until we hit them where it hurts. In the wallet. the bank account. Until they start losing money, they are not going to change. They couldn't get Punk to come back. Punk probably don't want to come back, and I'm sure he doesn't, considering how bad this is. So yeah, once again, Chicago, you guys really disappoint me. I thought you guys were one of the better crowds for wrestling. One of the crowds, kind of like the old ECW crowds that were really rabid and would throw shit into the ring. There was none of that. There was no, there was no riot. There was nothing. You guys really disappointed me. And I even heard that there were people who were, going to the show and they're trying to, organize the other people like, we really got to let them hear it with the CM Punk chants. And, nah. Most of the chants for Punk weren't that loud, aside from the ones during Heyman's speech. Really weak. And you guys really could have done better. And you guys, like I said, you really should have just left the fucking arena as soon as Heyman said that Punk wasn't there. You should have just left and went and asked for refunds and went home. When people start leaving the arena, and when people start asking for refunds, and when the WWE starts losing money, that is the only time they will ever change. Because if they're still making money, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. You cannot let them get away with this shit. But yeah, that was Raw from March 3rd, 2014, Chicago, Illinois. I'll go over the matches. In one of the few highlights of the night, the Usos finally beat the Middle-Aged Outlaws for the tag team titles. We have new champions, and we probably won't be seeing the Outlaws win the titles back, considering they're getting their rematch tomorrow on Main Event, so that's probably not going to happen. And then we had the Wyatts defeat the Shield again, because Rollins decided that this shit wasn't worth it enough. And then we had Santino and Emma beat Fandango and Summer. And then Sheamus defeated Christian. The Bellas defeated Foxana. And in the other highlight of the night, Ziggler comes out in an awesome Mustang and beats Del Rio. And then Bryan wins by DQ over Batista because of Randy Orton's interference. Only to get the shit beat out of him by Batista and Triple H. So yeah, that was Raw from March 3rd, 2014, Chicago, Illinois. Show still sucked. And the crowd really did not do as much as they should have. So once again, I'm very disappointed in you guys. But that'll do it for the show. I have to stop before my computer dies. Don't worry, I'll be getting it fixed soon. But yeah, that's the end of the rant tonight. Hopefully I will have my computer fixed before I can do the spoilers for SmackDown. So you might want to expect the SmackDown spoilers to be up Thursday or maybe early Friday, if I can't get to it sooner. I already have the parts I need ordered, but 3 to 7 days for delivery, so I don't know. But then again, SmackDown doesn't take long to record, so I might not need to worry. But yeah, that's it for the rant tonight. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.